Hi, we're here again at Discount Water Softeners with a quick tutorial on a Genesis Upflow or Premier Water Softener system that in the event that your system is not drawing brine, you can actually do the following steps to check to see if it's drawing brine and also what to do to correct that. So what we've gone and done with this control head is we've already put it into a manual regeneration. You're going to push and hold this button here for manual regeneration. You hold it in for about 3 seconds. The first stage that it goes into will be your brine draw. And we've already gone and got it to the brine draw stage, and it's counting down. The key is it needs to be counting down. Once it starts counting down, you can then come around to the back here, and this is going to be your brine line connection on the right-hand side of the control in the back. And what you will normally have is a piece of 3/8 inch hose that travels from here back to the salt tank or brine tank. And what you want to do is you want to remove that. And once you remove that, you'll have your elbow here, and if you put your finger over it, you should get suction. If you don't feel suction after putting your finger on there for a couple of seconds, you may have a plugged injector, or you could have a torn seal. Those are the two most common things that can occur. A torn seal is not common on a new unit. It could be on an older unit, but on a new unit, a plugged injector can occur. Once you turn your water back on, you could get debris breaking loose, and it'll end up in your injector. To access your injector, you first want to make sure you put your water softener into bypass mode. These two red handles are what are your bypass handles, and normally in an open position you're going to be parallel. But what you want to do for this process is to put it into your bypass mode. There is a diagram of this in the manual, but it's as simple as turning them until they face each other. That will make it so you don't get wet. Then when you move over here, we'll pan down a little bit, and this is the injector area. Normally there's going to be a cover on this with 4 screws, and then on the back side there's actually a couple of O-rings in here. These O-rings, sorry about that, these O-rings need to be in place and make sure that they're not pinched. So they are going to seal the cover on when you put it back. This injector area has essentially 2 injectors. This one on this side is an orange color. It's an actual blank. For this model, there is not a hole in this injector. There'll be it's a mold of an injector, but it does not have an opening at the other end. On this side, you will find your injector for your system. So in this model, it just so happens to be a black injector. If you have a larger system, it might be purple. Even larger, it might be yellow or white or even red. But for demonstration purposes, we're using one that has a black injector. So don't be worried if your injector is a different color than this one. Just be sure that you're addressing the one in this position. One other thing to look at before you look at the injector is the screen. Now this is a brand new unit. Your injector screen is over time going to get buildup on there, and it's designed to catch debris and buildup. It might have iron on it, it might be orange, it might be black, it could have some debris inside. You want to just take a stiff bristle brush, run it under some hot water, and brush it nice and clean, and you can put it back in. Okay? One of the things that you want to definitely make sure you do when you're pulling out this injector to check it is to make sure that you don't squeeze too hard on the injector and get it out of shape. So it's really key when you pull on this that you don't grab it too hard, but you don't want to grab it too soft because then you won't be able to bring it out. So this injector is sitting in somewhat of a cage, and this cage houses the outer and the inner nozzle of the injector. The inner nozzle typically doesn't get dirty, but it is good to remove and either blow through it or put a piece of wire through it to get it clean. To get this outer injector off, you're going to need to use a larger flathead screwdriver, and it's sometimes very difficult to get it started. So be careful with the plastic that you don't get a chunk taken out of it or ruin that, because it needs to be a nice smooth round entry into the injector when the water comes through there. So you can barely or not even see a hole through there. If there's a piece of debris in there, you won't be able to see through it. So you want to either blow through it in the opposite direction If you can kind of see that hole on there in the middle. You want to blow through that or get a very, very tiny wire and thread it through there. Be careful not to damage it. Just maybe blow through it, bring it back over and make sure it's clear. You're going to screw it back into the cage, nice and snug. And then when you're going back to put this cage back into the actual valve body, a real key thing to notice is on the bottom side of this, it is not a round end. It actually has 2 flat ends and then 2 rounded ends. This actually fits specifically into that valve body in a certain fashion. So when you first put it in there, it's going to slide in and kind of get a little snug. Then what you want to do is take your flathead screwdriver and push and turn at the same time. And when you do that, when it finds its right position, it'll slide further in. And when it does, it'll go in another, say, 1/4 of an inch like it just did. So it'll sit receded in there, and you'll know at that point that it's actually in the space that it needs to be in and properly seated. If it's not, or if those O-rings aren't in place or pinched, you're not going to draw brine again. The final stage, obviously, is to put your cover back on. Again, make sure those O-rings on the underside are in place. You can take them off and put them around here, and that'll ensure that they sit in the groove where they need to be. Tighten your 4 screws back up, and then go back over here, open up your bypass handles, and then come back around to the front of the control. If you're in a brine draw stage still, you can go ahead and open your water back up on your bypass and check for draw here. Now, in some instances, you may need to allow this to finish or advance it through the regeneration stage by hitting the manual regeneration after each stage starts. You may need to perform a second regeneration and come back and check for your draw. In some cases, you get an airlock in there and it won't actually, once you clean that injector, won't actually still draw. So you may want to bring it around for a second regeneration to double check to make sure that that didn't correct it. The final thing on this is if that does not correct it, there could be, on older units, a torn seal inside of here. We are going to create a video, or we'll have it up on our website at some point, of how to remove and check the seals on your seal and spacers, which are right around your piston. If you get a seal that is torn or has a chunk taken out, it won't draw brine. It's like trying to suck water through a straw with a hole in it. It will not seal properly, and you will get no brine draw. You won't get any brine draw. So that's another thing to look at, but this is the first and easier thing to look into. If for some reason you still don't get draw and you've got a bit of an older unit, you want to look at those seals. If you got a brand new unit, you may want to look at the float assembly. Make sure it didn't vibrate loose in transit, or something can get airlocked. And that's something where you might need to email us or give us a call, and we can help you walk through that as well. Any other issues, you can always email us at support@discountwatersofteners.com, or you can always give us a call and someone will be happy to help you. Thank you again for watching, and we'll see you again in our next video tutorial. Thanks very much.